Hi, my name's Daryl, and I'm in the middle of a Towing with Your Wrangler series. And today, we're going to talk about hitching up for the first time. Now, when hitching up, I try to follow a checklist, and the reason I do so is because hitching up is actually pretty easy, but if you forget to do one thing, it could be disastrous. Now, the first time I hitched up my trailer and drove it home, I didn't buy it from a dealer, I bought it from a private party. And that first trip, when I had to hitch up to make sure I got everything right, it was a little scary. And so I do want to take a little bit of that scariness out. And by giving you a checklist and hopefully by providing this video, hopefully it'll set you at ease a little bit. Now, hitching up, it can be a little messy. So yeah, you probably want to wear some gloves while you're doing so, but let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to hook up the hitch ball to our receiver. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is get some grease on the hitch ball. You really want to have it sit in that coupler, and you want it to move relatively freely inside of there. That'll really cut down on the wear and tear of the coupler and the ball, as well as make the towing experience quieter. So I use this white lithium grease. You can find this at any auto parts store, and you just put a good coat basically on that hitch ball. All right, so now we need to install our hitch ball mount into our receiver. Now, this is an adjustable hitch ball mount made by Kurt. I did a video on this particular hitch ball mount. It works really well. This one has an extra long shank of 12 inches, and so it sits pretty far away from the spare tire, so that isn't a problem. And it also is adjustable, so as you get bigger tires or put a lift on your Jeep, you can always change it. Now, the other thing I do have is I have this anti-rattle hitch device, which basically sits on that hitch ball mount, and it really secures that hitch ball mount to that receiver, and so it doesn't rattle. So I really like this as well. So if you notice, I have these two holes in my hitch ball mount, and I have a hole in my receiver. And basically, I just want to line these up. This gives you either an 11 or 12-inch shank, and either one of them clear my spare tire without any problem. But I'm going to go ahead and go to this one, which is the 11-inch one. And then I'm actually going to put my anti-rattle device right here and just secure that in place so we get no rattle. And then I take my hitch ball pin, which is this one right here. So both of these two products, this is a lockable hitch pin. This is made by Rhino. And this anti-rattle device is also made by Rhino. Put your pin into here. Okay. And then this one locks nicely so nobody takes off with your hitch ball. Okay. And then we're good to go. Now I would tighten this down just a little bit more just to get any of the rattle out. So our next step is to raise this coupler, basically to where the ball will sit underneath it when you back up your tow vehicle to the trailer. I typically just like to raise it up all the way, so there's no question that it's going to fit underneath the coupler. So let's go ahead and do that. So the next step is to make sure that our coupler is open and ready to be hitched up. So this is the closed position where it clamps down on the ball, and this is the open position. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is back up our Wrangler, and we need to get that hitch ball right underneath the coupler. Now, sometimes you don't have to get exactly perfect. If you're on level ground and have kind of a lightweight trailer, you can kind of move it and position it yourself. But sometimes you don't have that flexibility. So let's see how close we can get. I've got the benefit, I've got a really nice backup camera in my Wrangler that's really accurate. If you don't have a backup camera, you could probably purchase a kind of wireless backup camera. That might be helpful, or you can use a buddy, give you little signals on how close you are. So let's try to get this thing right. And so you see I've got little lines on here. That makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm pretty close. I'm gonna go just a little bit more. I'm on a slope, so it does make it a little bit difficult. And you can see I'm kind of right over the top of it a little bit. I actually want the ball right over the kind of the very top piece of the coupler, not right over the middle of it. I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, I think we're pretty close. Sometimes the Jeep will move after you do it. Let's see how close we are. Okay, so our coupler is right over the top of the ball. And so now what we want to do is lower the jack so that it comes down over the top of the ball. And you will see that once it's on top of there, it'll just kind of slide right over the top of the ball. Okay. Now what we want to do is engage our coupler, which is the thing that sits underneath. I'm going to bring this up on my iPhone so that you can kind of see it close down. What we're doing is we're closing the coupler, and as you close it, it's going to latch right underneath the ball. This is what closes over the top of the ball. So if I put the ball in here and then I close the coupler, you will see how the ball actually sits on top of this, okay? People will say that you can't lock it without the ball in place, but you can. So let's say the ball isn't quite in there all the way, and then you close it. Well, it looks like maybe you're kind of hooked up, but you're really not, because it's closed, but the ball isn't seated all the way in there. So you really want the ball resting right about here. It'll close. As you're lowering the jack, it will seat in there, and then you close it, and now it ain't going anywhere. That's really super important. People, even longtime towers, have got into trouble that they thought they were locked down and that they were coupled on when they actually weren't. All right, our next step is to install this coupler pin to make sure that this thing doesn't become unlatched. So you never obviously want that to happen when you're on the road. They do make locking coupler pins so somebody doesn't take off, uncouple your trailer from your vehicle and take off with it. But yeah, so you can put that in there and then just make sure it isn't going anywhere. All right, so our next step is to kind of lower the jack, but you basically want to raise this wheel up. And then you want to take the wheel off and store it somewhere. And yeah, so let's do that. Now you are going to want to raise this all the way up till it locks into place. And then take your wheel and put it in storage in your trailer somewhere. So all trailers come with some sort of safety mechanism, safety chains. If your hitch ever fails, so let's say somehow your hitch becomes detached, which is really scary, these safety chains will keep your trailer attached to your vehicle. So when you're installing these, you are going to want to cross them. I guess that does make them a little bit safer. If this ever happens, all state laws require this. So basically you take the safety chain, and pretty much on all hitches, they have places for the safety chains to go. So you would attach the one on the right side of the trailer to the left side. And then you would take the one on the left side trailer, cross it over the other one, and install it on the right side. So the next piece of safety is this little device right here. This is called the emergency breakaway cable. And there's this little box that sits on the tongue of your trailer, and should your hitch fail, should your security chains, safety chains fail, this is like your last line of defense. And so what will happen is this is attached to the tow vehicle, and if the tow vehicle separates from the trailer, this will come out and the electric brakes will engage on the trailer. So you also need to connect this to your tow vehicle. Now I think standard practice is these breakaway cables, when you attach these to your tow vehicle, you're really not supposed to put it on your hitch, because if your hitch fails, right, then this thing isn't going to work. you probably want to have something on the frame of your tow vehicle that you could connect this to. But I haven't done it, so I'm just going to attach this to the hitch. I think it would be more likely that this would fail as opposed to the actual hitch, but that's what I'm going to do. So next we need to install a 7-pin cable from our trailer, and we need to connect it to the tow vehicle. Now the 7-pin provides your trailer's running lights, it provides power for those, it provides the brake lights, it provides the turn signals on your trailer, it provides power for the battery on your trailer so it will recharge your battery. Most importantly, well, I guess all those things are pretty important, but it allows the brake controller to control the brakes on your trailer. So you need to have some sort of brake controller. I'll talk about that in a second. But this will provide that signal to your brakes. So whenever you push the brake pedal, it'll automatically give power to the electronic brakes on your trailer. So basically you have this little notch right here. This goes to the very top of that 7-pin connector. And so you push that in there. And there's also a little notch at the top of that 7-pin connector. So you push it in, and then this cover goes over the top of that flange. And you actually heard it as it connected to the tow vehicle. It got power to the trailer. So now we're connected. Okay, we've completed all the steps in connecting our tow vehicle or our Jeep Wrangler to our trailer. So now we need to just make sure that everything's working as far as the turn signals and the brake lights and the brake controller through that 7-pin connector. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check my brake controller. So I've got this Prodigy RF wireless brake controller. Now you can get a Mopar brake controller installed by Jeep, or you could probably do it yourself. But it isn't the best. It doesn't have kind of an override feature like this Prodigy has, this little button where I can override the brakes, kind of come to a screeching halt. And so I really like this. The other thing is I actually tow with this Jeep Wrangler as well as my RAV4 Prime. And so all I've got to do is basically move this from this vehicle to my RAV4 Prime, and I'm all set up. So this just goes into the cigarette lighter. And then as long as the brake controller, it says C on it, it means that it's connected to the system. And so now if I apply brakes, you can see what it's actually sending to the brakes, the signal. And when you get this wireless brake controller, basically you just kind of set it up the first time and then you're done. Now, pretty much if that's working, you probably can be assured that everything else is working, but we want to double check just in case. And so if you have a buddy, you want to hit your brakes just to make sure the brake lights are working in the back. The other thing you probably want to do is turn your turn signals on, and then go back and check to make sure that your turn signals are working both sides. And yeah, if it's completed those steps, then you're probably good to go. But one other thing you want to do is you probably just want to walk around your trailer just to make sure everything is ready to go. So let's do that. All right, so we're gonna just do a quick walk around on our trailer before we take off. And so obviously you want to check to make sure that no cables are hanging down and are going to drag on the road. These are stabilizers right here. So you want to make sure that all your stabilizers are up. So you're going to walk around the trailer. Of course, you've already checked your brake lights. You want to make sure that everything is closed, your electrical. Take a walk around. I've got a pop-up or an A-frame camper, so I make sure that these things are all latched. Then I'd walk around this side. Notice we have a storage cabinet open. Uh-oh. And we have this storage cabinet open over here, right? So we're going to want to close those. You're going to want to check your steps just to make sure that your steps are closed up. So we want to close up our storage cabinets, make sure all the stabilizers are up, make sure everything is secured and latched down. And then, yep, we're ready to go. So we are now hitched up and we're ready to hit the road. So when you get to your campsite, you basically kind of want to reverse the process. You're probably going to have to level your trailer and maybe a couple of other things, and I might do a video on that. But for the most part, we're ready to hit the road and have some fun. Now I do have some videos coming out in the future, a couple more on the towing series. I'm going to have a video about backing up a trailer, because that gets a lot of people in trouble sometimes, and a lot of people get freaked out about that. And there's really one simple tip that I can give you that's going to help out with that. So that'll be a good video. I'm also going to be doing a video on off-road trailers, specifically for a Jeep Wrangler or a Gladiator, or pretty much any sort of off-road vehicle. And so I think that'll be really helpful, because folks like travel trailers, but a Jeep's meant to go off-road anyway, so you'd probably be interested in a trailer that can go off-road. My next video is actually going to be hitting the road with a Wrangler. I'm going to be towing with my 4-cylinder turbo, and I'm going to compare that to towing with the V6 Pentastar. Try to keep everything equal just to see what the kind of performance of towing up a mountain, as well as what kind of gas mileage that you can expect, and to see if there's any differences between those two engines. So I really hope you're learning something and enjoying this towing series with the Wrangler, and I hope to see you in the next one again very soon.